Welcome back to Miss Eddie's Math Movies, where it's cute to be a square. Today's lesson is on section 5.1, congruent triangles. By the end of the lesson, you'll be able to identify congruent triangles and corresponding parts. In order to be able to identify these triangles and these parts, we need to make sure we understand the vocabulary. So corresponding parts are sides and angles that are in the same position. We're going to do an example below to clarify that. You've heard the word congruent before. Congruent segments have the same length, and congruent angles have the same measure. So today we're going to talk about congruent triangles. Well, triangles have measurement and length. So we're going to think of congruent triangles as having the exact same size and shape. The two triangles that have the exact same size and shape. So we're going to look at this one. Look at this example here. It tells us that these two triangles are congruent. So they have the exact same size and the exact same shape. And we have to list all the corresponding congruent parts. So all the sides and all of the angles that are in the same position. That's what we have to do here. And this really tells us everything we need to know. This is really helpful, and we're going to talk about why that's so important. Because in order to list the angles that are the same, right, it tells us here, since J is the first letter and S is the first letter, J and S are the angles that match up. Notice I say that here. J and S are the angles that match up. So here, angle K is, well, K is in the middle. K must be congruent to R. And you can see that from the picture, that K and R are the same. And then L must match up with T, because L is the last letter and T is the last letter. Similarly, we can do this with sides. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more for you. See, side JK is in the same position. It's corresponding to SR, JK and SR. KL is in the same spot as RT. And you can see that up here, KL and RT. And JL is in the same position as ST. They are corresponding and congruent, JL and ST. So now you get to try this. We'll do angles and sides. So we've got angle S, you need to fill in the blank. Angle T and angle U. You need to tell me what they're congruent to. Use the statement here, and you can use your picture to make sure, but you need to be able to use this statement right here. Then for our sides, we have ST, TU, and SU. You need to fill in which sides are congruent using this statement. Go ahead and do that now. Now we are going to write the congruent statement. But first it says, identify all the corresponding parts. So similar to what we just did. A has 3 tick marks, or 3 arc marks, and so does F. So A and F must be the same. B has 1 arc, and D has 1 arc. C has 2 arcs, and E has 2 arcs. So now we've listed all the angles that are congruent. Now our congruent sides, well, AB has 2 tick marks, and FD has 2 tick marks. BC and DE. AC has 3 tick marks, and FE has 3 tick marks. So now we've done letter A. Letter B says write a congruence statement. This right here is a congruence statement. We're writing out the congruent triangles. And here's one possible. We could go A, B, C. So A, B, C. We have to do the exact same order over here. So it's going to be F, D, E. Because we know A goes with F, so if A is first, F must be first. B is in the middle, D must be in the middle, and if C is at the end, E must be in the end. And this is really important because if this is wrong, then these are going to be wrong. The follow-up says write 4 different congruent statements for the triangles. All right, I'll start it and I want you to finish it. We already did triangle ABC, so let's do triangle ACB, triangle BAC, triangle CBA, and triangle BCA. All right, I want you to fill that in based on this triangle, these 2 triangles up here. Look at this order and then write this triangle in the correct order based on this. So I want you to fill in these 4 blanks here. Go ahead and do that now. Use properties of congruent triangles. In the figure, triangle PQR is congruent to triangle XYZ. All right, this is the important statement. This tells us everything we need to know. So we have to find the length of XZ. Well, here's XZ. Let's put a question mark here. This is what we're looking for. We need to find out, well, what's the same as XZ? Well, if you look here, X is in the beginning and Z is at the end. And P is at the beginning and R is at the end. So that must mean XZ is equal to PR. So we're going to put our tick marks there because they're corresponding. So if PR is 10, that means XZ must be 10. All right, find angle Q. Well, here's angle Q. And angle Q is corresponding with Y. So I'll put an arc in Y. So that means so Q and Y are the same, they're corresponding, and Y is 95, which makes Q 95. All right, this is the checkpoint. You need to find the length of DF and the measure of angle B. Use this. This is the important information right there. Match it up. And then you have to circle which one of these is correct. So go ahead and do that now. Decide whether the triangles are congruent. So A, we need to identify all pairs of corresponding congruent parts. We need to find 3 angles that are the same and 3 sides that are the same in order for these triangles to be identical. Then determine if the triangles are congruent. If they are congruent, write a congruent statement. All right, so I need to find 3 angles that are the same, and then I need to find 3 sides that are the same. So here's one angle that's the same, so I'm going to put an A there for one angle that's the same. Here's another angle that's the same. Oh, and here's another angle that's the same. So, good, I found all 3 angles. So let's write those down. D is congruent to G. DEF, this angle right here, is congruent to angle GEF. And DFE, this angle right here, is congruent to this angle, which is GFE. Now we need to find 3 sides that are congruent. All right, well, here's one side. Oh, and here's another one. What about the third side? Well, if you look, they're sharing the third side. And if they're sharing it, it's the same in this side as it is in this side. This triangle, I mean. So we can put an S here because they're sharing it. And so each triangle now has 3 S's in it and 3 A's. The reason for this, why it equals itself, if you remember, This reason is reflexive. Just to remember for you, here's DE is congruent to GE, and DF is congruent to GF. So since we found all three angles and all three sides, the two triangles are congruent. It's a lot to check. D, E, F, and we have to do the same pattern on the other side. So if we went from D to E to F, over here we're going to go from G to E to F. Oh, here's the follow-up. Name the property that tells you EF is congruent to EF. That is the reflexive property. In the diagram, HG is congruent to LK. Oh, it's parallel, I'm sorry. So that's your symbol right there for parallel. Remember those little arrows or triangles mean parallel. Determine whether the triangles are congruent. If they are, write a congruent statement. All right, so we need to find all three angles and all three sides. That's what we have to do here. Well, let's look. The angles aren't looking so good, but I do see some vertical angles here, and vertical angles are always equal. So there's one set of angles for me, because vertical angles are congruent. All right, then this parallel is a clue. This is going to help me figure something out. And so I'm going to take my highlighter. I'm going to extend these so they really look like parallel lines. So those lines are parallel. If you remember, oh, and here's a transversal. And here they've drawn it separately for us. This angle and this angle, which is right here and here, are alternate interior angles. So angle K is equal to angle H because of alternate interior angles. By alternate interior angles. We can do the same thing with the other side. Notice then we could use this as the transversal, and angle L would be congruent to angle G because of alternate interior angles. So now I found all three angles. I'll put A in all those angles. That's great, I found all three angles. Now I need to check all three sides. So here's one side that's the same, and there's 2 tick marks, and here's 3 tick marks. So look at all three sides match up. JG matches up with JL, HJ matches up with KJ, and HG matches up with KL. So I found all three sides. Now I can write a congruent statement. Triangle HJG. Well, if H is at the beginning, who goes with H? K does. So K has to be at the beginning. J goes with J, and G goes with L. This is really important that you know how to do this. All right. In the figure, XY is parallel to WZ, so very similar. Determine whether the two triangles are congruent. If they are, write a congruent statement. This is very much like what we did above. So look at example 5 if you need help with it. This is M Cubed signing out.